This presentation supports the human resources internal level 3. This presentation is looking specifically a brief look at what is training, motivation, and appraisal. So training and development. Training is a very important part of developing your human resources and your staff. And in essence, it's the process of increasing their knowledge, their skills, their experience to make sure they perform their jobs effectively and to the best of their ability. And hopefully, the knock-on effect will be an increase in efficiency and an increase in quality. So in doing this one, what very often is the sort of areas you look at is induction training with supporting new employees, focusing on improving productivity and effectiveness of their marketing can obviously be something that development training can link to. Hopefully, it will also support the higher standards of customer service and quality. Introduction of when there's new technology that occurs, or any sort of change, basically this needs to be adapted to, and very often training and development is used then. Likewise, changes can be provoked through legislation issues, and also as well just basically supporting employee progression, or getting people highly trained to be able to be moving up the hierarchy and hopefully obtain promotions. Excuse me. So it has a potential to provide a range of benefits for the business. So really, these benefits largely are quite intangible. That you can't immediately see them. They tend to be very long term, but you do get higher quality, better productivity, increased motivation, flexibility through increased skills, and hopefully less supervision, and with that, recruitment and employee retention, which is the key bit, the retention usually is improved. And therefore, if you've got people who are trained and people who are developed, they're more likely to adapt to changes in the business. Now, to implement effective training, there needs to be some sort of training strategy. It's not just a case of, well, you look at your work and say, okay, you need training on this, that, and the other. You need an overview as to where the skills may lie, or the deficit of skills may lie. So therefore, you need to identify the skills and abilities needed by the employees. Largely, as we've looked at before, skills needs analysis may uncover these sort of issues. You can draw up an action plan to show how investment in training, okay, will help to meet all the goals, all the objectives, and hopefully in that action plan you're going to implement it using some sort of target system, maybe monitoring progress, and therefore seeing how effective the training is. However, this is the problem with training, and sometimes organisations are reluctant to engage fully in it, is because it's hugely costly. It's hard to measure, because it is very often a long-term undertaking, and there's not immediate results. So as it says here, costs are disproportionate between the short term and the long term. So added to that, you can also have issues, is that more highly skilled trained employees that you've invested your time, money, and your resources into achieving, they could be poached by other organisations. So really what we're seeing is short-term costs are huge to put the training on, and then also productivity at the same time goes down, because you're taking away those people who could be used to be productive rather than doing the training. So in these sort of situations, training is very much can be overlooked when there's other more pressing issues in these dynamic business environments. So really what it comes down to is that does seem to be a long-term, or it's a very slow way of seeing any return on those investments, and it can be intangible. What you do see though is real positive effects on the overall culture. Now, in terms of motivation, this is a huge topic that we're not going to spend too long on. For those of you that were doing level 2, we did a whole internal on it. But in essence, motivation is this magic thing that employers are often looking to find in their employees. Okay, so it's that inner feeling that gives an employee that desire to succeed at his or her job. It's not just the activity inspired by short-term reward. So arguably, the whole idea of wages and salaries aren't really motivators. Bonuses aren't really motivators. They're very short-term. They're not really promoting that inner feeling of giving you that sense of satisfaction that motivation can provide. So theorists that we've looked at in the past, Taylor, Maslow, and Hertzberg, all have different takes on these sort of things. So really, from an organisation's point of view, they will adopt these motivational practices that fit in with their culture, with their organisation. And this can be a hybrid of different types of theories. There is not one key theory, because we are all individuals and we all are motivated by different things. Appraisal. So when we're looking at appraisal, we've hopefully, once we've trained our employees and they're doing their jobs at the peak of their training, we can therefore measure how well they are performing in the job, and with that provide feedback. This can identify further training needs and could identify further areas where they could be motivated. So employees' performance is measured against different types of evaluation systems that we're going to research. So they can be top-down, management by objectives, self-assessment, and 360 appraisal. So when we're looking at this one, okay, an employee must be at a point at which they can be measured against the desired criteria. And it can take the form in lots of different ways. It could be an interview, it could be an actual observation of how tasks are carried out, it could be a way in which you're evaluating how well their performance fits in with the values and the culture of the organisation. It can be very problematic to implement the most effective one, because it is essentially boiling down to judging, and that can have negative connotations with the whole workforce and morale of the workforce. So it needs to be done in a very delicate, thought out way. So what we're going to look at in the lessons are these ways. Top down appraisal is the traditional managers appraising their subordinates on a number of key criteria. Management by objectives is the way in which the organisation will set key objectives, and it's the measurement of that individual employee against that objective criteria. Self-assessment would be, again, them assessing themselves on said criteria and providing evidence, and probably backed up with some sort of top-down sort of appraisal interview at the same time. 360-degree appraisal, on the other hand, this is where staff members are appraised or judged on their performance by a number of key people whom they work with around them. So that could be their superiors, it could be their subordinates, and they could be fellow colleagues. And that gives an overall idea as to how well these things are, or how well they're being performed. Overall, all these methods of appraisal do add to the bureaucracy of an organisation, and this is always one thing that needs to be cut down. So looking at that one, so that's a brief overview of what training and development is, motivation,